Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Wednesday night. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, making another addition to the defensive coaching staff heading into 2025 as former Alabama and Washington linebackers coach Robert Bala making the move to Gainesville, going to get the Co-DC tag along as coaching the linebackers in 2025. Billy Napier just hiring every single coach possible outside of an offensive play caller heading into the 2025 year. All jokes aside, I'm actually a really big fan of Robert Bala. We talked about him 12 months ago when he took the job up with the Washington Huskies. You look at it's not a super long track record, but the track record of him coaching linebackers the last 2 years at Alabama and Washington, it's been absolutely dynamite. And with this rule, and it's kind of funky what Florida's doing, right? They're just throwing a lot of Co-DC tags out there. You're taking advantage of the NCAA amending these rules about what coaches can do on staff with the changes that the NCAA has made, allowing pretty much every coach on staff to have a hand on the practice field and on the football field. Why not just try to stack as many quality coaches on your staff as possible going into the fall? And I look at Robert Bala and say, really quality football coach. And you look at, you kind of do two different things. One, when I'm evaluating these assistant coach hires, I like to look at, all right, who are the other head coaches that have hired this guy? Nick Saban and Jed Fish, two head coaches that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, are making these hires, or have hired Robert Bala the last 24 months. That makes me feel really good. And then secondly, you look at the body of work with the linebackers, both at Alabama and Washington. Go back to Alabama in 2023. Deontay Lawson, Jahad Campbell. And Jahad Campbell has emerged as one of the best linebackers really in the country at the end of 2024, now going off to the NFL draft. Then he goes up to Washington in 2024. Carson Bruner, true freshman Kamari House, played exceptional football as well. I look at Robert Bala and say this is a really good hire. This is a football coach that coaching linebackers has a short track record, but a track record of doing some really good job with linebacker play development. I think the second conversation here is, and Billy Napier said this in the press conference, we want to free up Ron Roberts. Let him walk around and kind of take command of the whole defense. And Billy Napier said that's kind of what happened towards the back half of 2024 as Ron Roberts, quietly took command of this defense. And what did we see from the Florida Gators defense in the month of November on the defense side of the football? It exploded, played really, really well. I was, as much chatter as there's been about bringing in a defensive coordinator, I've been pretty steadfast that you have one with Ron Roberts, and what you saw from this Florida Gators defense in the tail end of 2024, where it sounds like Ron Roberts was running the show, and now you're just hiring a ton of support staff around him, specifically kind of young support staff. Robert Bala, Vinny Sinceri, two younger football coaches that seem to be rising stars, learning under a guy like Ron Roberts, who's the grizzled veteran. I look at the defensive side of the football and say, I think this is a really strong coaching staff for the Florida Gators heading into 2025. Now, the question here is, what is this defense going to look like as a whole? How does all these new faces coming in, guys like Vinny Sincere and Robert Bala, how does it all come together in 2025? I think, man, there's a lot of optimism. And I want to look at Robert Bala and the amount of talent that he's going to have at linebacker going into 2025. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Florida Gator fans, would love to hear how you guys are feeling in the comment section. It's been wild to talk about the staff changes, lack thereof of staff changes. I personally had a really good time doing it. The amount of Florida fans who've been rocking with the boys as we've talked about this, as we've talked about the recruiting trail, means the world. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, you throw the Co-DC tag, and I think that's what some Florida fans are maybe getting a little hung up on. You oftentimes throw these Co-DC tags out there to entice a guy like Robert Bala to come to Gainesville. And so I look at the Co-DC tag for both Robert Bala and Vinny Sinceri. That was I'm guessing the primary function is, hey, let's further entice these coaches to come to Florida, because you look at Robert Bala, who was doing some really good things with the Washington Huskies, and then you look at a guy like Vinny Sinceri, who was a sitting defensive coordinator at the G5 level going into 2025. How do we get them to come to Florida? Slap that Co-DC tag right on the title. That's how you do it. And I'm a fan of it. Again, one of the, at least in my opinion, with how much talk goes on in the recruiting trail and now how much talk is in NIL and transfer portal, one of the things that nobody ever seems to want to talk about anymore is putting together a really good coaching staff. And on the defensive side of the football, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of what the staff looks like, and I'm a fan of what the personnel looks like. And I'm a fan of what this defense can be in 2025. And obviously, it's frustrating to see Billy Napier kind of double down in the press conference and say, my offensive play calling is what got me to here. We all, I think, want to see an offensive play caller come in. That's probably not going to happen. And that's going to, we've said it all along, determine Billy Napier's tenure at Florida. You know, he's got all the pieces on offense now, especially with DJ Lagway running the show. It's either going to work or not work. And whether it works or not works is going to probably dictate whether Billy Napier is coaching the Florida Gators for much longer. What fires me up is I do think you've nailed the defense, because you take a look at now, like the depth chart, specifically looking at the linebackers, you're allowing Ron Roberts to kind of settle into that overarching defensive coordinator that gets to focus on the defense as a whole. And then you bring in a young, but I think very, very impressive linebacker coach to work with guys like Pup Howard, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs, Jaden Robinson, Ty Jackson coming in the 2025 class. Look, you talk about why he moved from Washington to Florida. Yeah, maybe the Co-DC tag. I think just as importantly, the opportunity to coach this group of linebackers. I don't know if there's, from a pure talent standpoint, maybe outside of Georgia, who's got some really good backers, how many linebacker rooms in the country have just the pure upside that Florida has in this room? And you're really bringing in a guy that, one, has proven to develop linebackers well. There's a lot of upside, and there's a lot of good things to like about what this Florida defense is going to look like in 2025. And to me, it kind of comes down to, can you maximize DJ Lagway? Yeah, all the pieces from a personnel standpoint, all the pieces are in place. On the defensive side of the football, you got great personnel, great coaching staff. On the offensive side of the football, we know we got great personnel. You return 40 or 5 offensive linemen. You got arguably the most talented quarterback in the country, a couple of good running backs, a lot of talent at the pass catcher spot. If Billy Napier can put it all together, and I'll say this, and this will be a hot take, and many Florida fans probably going to get a little pissed at me here, but it's just something I've been thinking about is, look, DJ Lagway seemed to settle in the back half of 2024. Why not just keep the offense the same? And this is not necessarily me arguing that Billy. I would have liked to see Billy Napier bring in a new play caller, but DJ Lagway has a lot of familiarity with what Billy Napier wants to do, and I think there's a lot of good things you can build off of. Maybe keeping some of that continuity could be good for DJ. That's the optimistic lens of looking at it. All the pieces are in place, especially on the defensive side of the football. And again, I'm a fan of Robert Bala. He's done a really good job developing linebackers over the last 2 years. We'll close it out on that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Would love to hear how you guys are feeling in the comment section, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.